Today, so I want to show you how I prepare the report as a customer success manager. I prepare the report that help my company to secure $1 million in investors fund. So let me walk you through what actually happened. So now you see, I got the report that one of the things the investors were going to make their decision based on was the net dollar retention of the company, the NDR, right? This was one of the criteria they were using to assess if this company is good enough to invest in. And lucky for my company, this was something I was already tracking accurately in such a way that it was able to convince the investors that, okay, this is a good enough company that we could invest in. So I'm going to walk you through how I structured the NDR, right? And the thought process of how I was able to do it. So now let's start with what I did. I broke it down into 3 different categories, right? That's the customer counts, revenue by quarters, and the net dollar retention. So I'm going to explain it to you. So now, first thing you want to do when you are tracking the NDR is to create a quote, is to take note of how many customers you are acquiring for the particular quote in the first month, right? Month by month, how many customers you are having. So as you can see, you can group your quotes based on how you do it in your company, but in our company, we do it based on the month that they were acquired, right? And our company serves 5 different countries. That's Nigeria, Kenya, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, right? The 5 countries, and each country has their own retention NDR reports. I will also sell a $2,000 a month product, SaaS product. That's what you sell. So now you can see, let me start with January quote. You can see that in January quote, in the month 0, that's the very first month where we acquired January quote. We acquired 9 customers, right? We acquired 9 customers in the first month of the January quote. And as you can see, those 9 customers paid us $18,000 in revenue, based on $2,000 per customer, right? Now, this is also over time, as you can see, their month 1, we still had 9 customers from the original quote. You can see that by month 8, we had already churned 1 customer, right? That means we already lost 1 customer. And by month 12, we already lost customers from our original 9 customers of the January quote. Do the same thing, right, for the February quote as well. How many did you acquire in the first month of February, right? You track it. By month 2, you could see that we already lost 1 customer, and by month 11, right, we had already lost 3 customers. You see, we already had 10 left from the original thing. Now you can see that this page is empty. That's because we've never reached the 12th month of the February quote. We've never reached it, so that's why this page is empty. So the NDR is supposed to be in a diagonal pattern based on how you're tracking it, right? At this particular moment, that is it, right? Of course, when the next month comes, I'm going to fill in this part for the customer counts. I'm also going to fill in this part for the February cohort. Then I'll do this for every cohort. Now, as you can see, so now this is just basically how we are tracking each customer we are acquiring per month. But this doesn't really give you an idea of the revenue, right? The net dollar, right? That's what NDR. So that is where we move into the next category, right? Now, the net dollar retention is based on 3 kinds of revenue: the contraction revenue, the expansion revenue, and also is also calculated based on the start of a period and the end of a period, right? Basically, let's say, January quote, the start of your period is month 0, January, and the end period, let's say at a particular point in time, it can be maybe December or November. It depends on where you are doing your analysis. So that's basically how the NDR is calculated. So let me just give you an idea of how it works. So now for the NDR, you could see that, remember I said we are selling $2,000 per month product. So you can see that in month 0, they were paying us $18,000, right? $500 per customer. Now, what you should notice something. You can see that in month 8, right? We are already churned 1 customers. Now you think that, $2,000 per customer, that is minus $2,000 from the original $18,000. So we should also have $16,000. But if you look at it, see that we actually still have $18,000, right? That shows you that even though we already lost 1 customer, we had managed to expand some customers, other quotes from this quote, right? Either by upsells or cross sales, in such a way that we are not gaining an extra $2,000 from them minus what we already lost. Can you see how it works? Okay, let's say by month 12 now, we are supposed to have, by that time we already lost churned 2 customers, but then you can see that we're already making $20,000 per, in total from this quote, from January quote. So that means that Even though we already lost $4,000, that's $2,000 per the two church customers. We are now making an extra $4,000 and $2,000 extra, right, from the original. So that means from the 7 customers that are remaining, we are now making, let's say, an average of maybe like 2,100, 2,200 to 2,200 from them based on some upsells or cross sales that we did. So now, you do the same thing for every quarter as well. You can see okay, look at February, for example. You can see that in February, in the beginning of the year, we acquired 10 customers paying us $26,000, right? Now you can see that by month 2, it actually dropped to $24,000. And if you look at month 2 of February, it's because we already churned one customer, taking away $2,000, and we didn't manage to upsell any customer by that time. So that's basically just what, these are able to have an idea of how your expansion and your contraction revenue is growing over time. So now, but that still doesn't yet give us the, based on what investors want to see. Now we are moving into that area. Now, when we now to calculate the percentage and the ADR percentage, the ADR percentage is basically a measure of how the revenue is growing for each cohort is growing over their lifetime. So compared to your first month, let's say by month 6, by how many percent has your revenue grown? So this is what this third category tells us. So basically, the way you do it is that, let's say it is month 2 of the January cohort. So if you want to calculate that, you basically just take the present month you want to calculate, right? You divide it by the very first month, right? The revenue go from the very first month. And you can see, okay, we had 19,000 in month 2. We already making 9,000 from January cohorts, but the original cohorts and the original premium we're getting from them was 18,000. So that you can see that 9,000 is obviously more than 18,000, and that is from based on the calculation, that's a growth of 106%, right? So this just gives you a track, it helps you to track how much the revenue is growing, over time, over the lifetime of each cohort of customers. Okay, look at, for example, we talked about February, right, where we lost $2,000 and we weren't able to upsell anybody. Now look at it here. You can see that original from month 1, the beginning of February cohort, we were making $26,000, but then by the month 2, we already churned one customer, taking away $2,000 from our revenue. As you can see, that means our NDR percentage fell to 92%. Now there's a benchmark that investors actually use to assess. There's a standard industry-wide benchmark for SaaS company, and we'll get to that investors use to assess how well the company is performing based on their NDR. We're going to get to that. So now this is just basically how we track. Now another thing this helps you with, right, is also the fact that you can track it vertically to compare how new cohorts are performing compared to old cohorts. For example, let's say you're trying to assess the performance of your new lead quality, like maybe the leads that you're getting, you're able to upsell them earlier into their lifetime compared to the old quality. Or maybe you're trying to see the performance of your CS team, maybe how much they are retaining customers, right? Or you want to see your sales team, maybe how much they are able to upsell or cross-sell customers, right? Okay, let me give you an idea. Look at, for example, now, you can see that, okay, let's say we want to look at in the month 3 of our customers. By month 3, what usually happens, right, for each cohort, you can see that, okay, let's say from January all the way to April, let's say, okay, we know that our maybe something we used to see that, okay, we used to manage to be over 100%. By month 3, we still managed to retain over 100% of the revenue compared to our new cohorts, right? The new customers, you see that, okay, we still managed to be above 100%. Let's say you see a drop here. Maybe you are no more seeing 100%, you're not seeing 90, 80. You know that something is going on. You're already losing more revenue than you are gaining. So you know that something has to be done. Maybe you start to investigate. So these are you start to make data-driven decisions, right? That way it helps you. Or, okay, look at, for example, now, see this place. You see that, okay, in the month 5, right, of the past cohorts, it fell below 100%. As you can see, 94%, 97%. Something must have obviously happened. Then due to some fixes, you're able to get it back to over 100%. You know that, okay, something is working, right? These are able to get feedback. So now, That's just that's just basically what it does. It helps you to track how each cohorts are advancing, are growing in revenue or contracting revenue over time. But that's still not what investors are actually after. Now, investors are actually after the overall, top-down view of the NDR of the company for every cohort, right? They don't care about the fact that they are segmenting your own month by month. They just care about how they are performing based on your category. Now, as you can see, now before I get into that, you can see that this is the benchmark. Anything below 100%, right? Investors is suboptimal. They might not really invest. The average is sorry about that. The average is actually 100% to 120%. That's the average in the SaaS industry. So anything in that range is good enough. Then we have the outliers of 130% and all. So now let's go now into what investors actually, that's what we now call the weighted NDR. Now, to calculate the weighted NDR is basically just it's basically just taking all the cohorts for that particular month and dividing it against their very first month. Now, let me show you an idea. Okay, for month 0, you basically just take month 0 and divide by month 0. Now, look at month 1. To calculate month 1 cohort, you can see that we took all the revenue from month 1 cohorts, right? In the month 1 of every cohort, in their month 1, how much revenue are we gaining compared to their month 0? Are we retaining 100% of their revenue? That is what this tells us. And now, I want you to know something. You see, I will not go all the way to the last piece. That's because it has not had the chance to recall. By month 1, it has not had the chance to recall because that's actually based on, in that I'm recording this video. And you can see we had already gone all the way to January of 2022. But then, the customers that we acquired in month 1, that is February, like let's just say February. We've never got into February of the next year. So we've never had any revenue by that time from any of the cohorts. So you can see that it's empty, right? You can see that it's empty. So that is actually one important thing. Don't drag it okay, you see what I'm saying as we go. See, basically, you can see that we take all the revenue in month 1, divided by the original month. You can see that we still manage to retain 100% of every revenue that we get from every cohort that we have. We are still able to retain, by month 1 of their lifetime, we are able to retain the revenue. Now, we can see, let's go to this 106%, right? And I want you to look at something now. In the month 3 of summer cohorts, now we'll take all that and we divide it by, remember what I said, you have to look at it based on you have to ensure that it is in the same line. You are looking at it 12. If the revenue has not had the chance to recall, do not include it. You can see that these spaces are empty. Even Excel will tell you that is empty cells, so it's not going to add it to your calculation. And you want to ensure that it is consistent with the month 0, by the month 3, as you can see, because that is based on 12. They're doing it based on a 12-month timeline. So as you can see, by month 3 of each cohort, I've already managed to grow revenue by 106%. Then by the month 12, right, we have already managed to grow our net dollar retention by 211%. And you see that falls in the range of the average that investors are actually looking for, which was actually good enough for them to invest in the company. So that is just basically, how it works. And that's the idea for every, company, that every country that we are in. You can see every country has its own NDR. So that's just basically a breakdown of how I was able to prepare a report that helped my company to secure $1 million in investors fund.